you can officially begin to get your calendars out, Diesel, and begin the countdown because as of this week, we are 10 weeks away from opening weekend of college football. Just let that resonate. Let that marinate. We need some angel music, right? Something to make us feel like we can do this. We can get there 10 weeks away from college football. And in this very segment, Diesel, that's where we begin as we start to transition to talking season with college football. And I want to get right in to the coaches that enter the season on the hottest of seats. You and I, Diesel, do a segment during football season called Welfare Check, right? We check to see who's home, who's not home, who's on the hottest of seats across college football. And that is where we begin this very segment. As we are 10 weeks away from college football, it is time to decide, Diesel, whose seats should be warm and whose seats should not be warm as we enter the 2025 football season. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He sitting across from me is Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you. And speaking of college football, on the way here, Diesel, I got the notification on my phone from Clemson football. And this is not a joke. Here it is, the 11th of June. And on the 11th of June, we have a time set for rivalry weekend, rivalry Saturday, Clemson, South Carolina. In case you have not seen it, just 30 minutes ago on Twitter, noon kick.
Boo!
Between Clemson and South Carolina.
Noon kicks.
What are we doing? Come on.
Clemson is being talked about in the national championship discussion.
Yeah.
South Carolina is a much improved team that I haven't spent a whole lot of time yet looking at the way too early top 25s, but I would imagine South Carolina probably listed in the top 25 on some or most polls. So you got a top 25 matchup, potentially, and you're sticking it at noon. Sucks.
First of all, I'm sitting here asking myself on this Wednesday, why is this being announced in the middle of June? Usually you and I are we're finding out 2 weeks before the game,
true.
Right? I, first of all, don't like that. Number two, I don't like it being at noon. Why could that game not be a flex game? There are plenty of other options out there. I get it. But at least flex it. At least give us an option, right?
Yeah.
Clemson, South Carolina, noon o'clock, 2025, officially announced. Clemson fans, South Carolina fans out there, how do you feel about that announcement? At 844-326-3663. Text line open. It's the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. The phone line's open as well. You can comment on the stream on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, as JB has already done. But how do you feel? 12 o'clock kickoff before we dive into hot seat conversation. I'm with you, Diesel. It could be at that moment, those two teams could be in the top 25.
Schedules could change. I guess there's always a chance that they flex someone else out of a position and move this game. Unlikely at this point. At least you could say this, Cole. It's not going to be butt crack cold in the middle of the night when you're leaving Willie B.
Yeah.
Whichever team, whichever fan base is unhappy leaving that stadium, you're not going to be shivering on your way out because it'll still be sunny when that happens.
What is that? That's the Saturday after Thanksgiving, so it's the end of November, right? End of November. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a positive. As long as it's normal weather that weekend, right? It's because sometimes we do get some mild weather in November. So to answer, to kind of put a prediction on it, Diesel, noon kick in Columbia right before December, kickoff at noon. I'm thinking what? Highest potentially in the 60s? The highest 60 degrees? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
For end of November? Potentially, if it's really cold, if we have a cold front, maybe you're talking, 40s or 50s. It usually doesn't get that cold here in November, but you're right. At least it's not. At least you're not going to be freezing cold, and at least you're not going to be burning as if it were a noon kick in Columbia in August.
So the game's already scheduled for November 29th. A lot of big-time rivalry games that day. Michigan, Ohio State, Texas versus Texas A&M, Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State is the Friday night prior to that, Friday, November 28th. You'll have an Oregon and Washington matchup. But outside of that, I mean, maybe if they were pre-confirming that this is a national TV game, I'd say, okay, well, at least you got that in your back pocket, right? You can sit on the fact that it's going to be a televised game. Maybe they flex it if both of these teams end up being really good. If you look at, those other matchups and they don't end up being that compelling head-to-head.
Well, there you have it, Clemson fans. There you have it, South Carolina fans, on this Wednesday at 3:06. If you hadn't seen the announcement on Twitter already, you now know Clemson, South Carolina, noon in 2025 on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Diesel Dewey says, you've got 2 playoff caliber teams playing at noon. That is a travesty. Imagine, you ever heard Dewey
Somebody
say
should be fired.
All right. I bet the committee has something to do with this, says Dewey.
I'll put the system on trial.
Yeah, he's blaming the committee for it. Texter from the 978 says, well, at least I know how to plan my Saturday on rivalry weekend. Missed last year's rivalry game due to a wedding. That's brutal. I would hate to have to.
You can always say no.
Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah, to the wife Texter. Or the, right? Either way. Let's see. 491 on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says, quick search says the average temperature in Columbia for November 29th is 72, and the average low is 47. So you're looking probably at high 60s, right? Maybe if it's a little cooler, maybe it won't be that high, but not a bad day. It'll be nice at noon. However, Diesel, the biggest problem is, and I love to tailgate. I have a lot of friends that tailgate at South Carolina. The biggest problem with this is you can't tailgate for a noon kick. How do you tailgate?
Unless you're a degenerate who's willing to wake up and start drinking at 6 a.m.
And start eating breakfast in the parking lot at 6 a.m. At least give us 3:30. At least 3:30.
By the way, here's what the late, great Mike Leach had to say about committees.
Have a committee, because why not? Because, we're American. We love committees. Let's get us a committee. Well, who should be on the committee? Well, I don't know. This guy's a good guy. Let's have him on the committee.
Who doesn't love
I love
Mike
that.
Leach?
Love that.
Such a legend.
R.I.P., man.
Such a legend.
Love it. Oh, by the way, you weren't here a couple of weeks ago, and it was in the Daily Wire. Speaking of Mike Leach, did you see where the College Football Hall of Fame lowered their acceptance, whatever it is, win rate?
What was he, like 59.9% win percentage? And the previous example or previous threshold was 60%.
Isn't that great? Isn't that awesome? You love to see that. Texter says, hard to predict the weather for the rivalry game. South Carolina weather is a real life version of Whose Line. Hopefully it's not too bad, but there you have it. There is the biggest news of the day locally when it comes to Clemson and South Carolina Diesel. But let's get into the conversation as we are 10 weeks away from college football season. That just kind of gives me goosebumps. Like, I get giddy thinking about that.
10's still a long time away, though.
It is, but it's not bad. Because you know what that means? Next week it'll only be single digits. And we can do that. We can make that work. The hot summer, I'm telling you, I'm fired up. I'm ready.
To start going out and getting the preseason magazines. I didn't realize they were on shelves yet. Thank you, JB, for the heads up.
I can't wait.
Lindy's is already out.
Let's go.
I'm more of a Phil Steele man myself, but hey, Lindy's is all right by me.
So with us being 10 weeks away, if you just tuned into the show, by the way, welcome in. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Diesel, like I said, we do a segment during football season called Welfare Check, where we look at coaches on the hot seat. When you talk about entering the 2025 football season, and I want to hear from the Tolos on this as well, at 844-326-3663. When you talk about entering the 2025 season, and you close your eyes and you think college football 2025 hot seat. Again, close your eyes, college football 2025 hot seat. Who comes to mind? If you were to just
Mike Norvell.
Oh, wow.
Mike Norvell's
Is that the first one that pops in your head?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's certainly not the only one, but
he's the first one.
Mike Norvell certainly pops up. Yeah, he's, the fan base expects a lot of him. He's putting his own money on the line. Felt like a last desperate measure for him to say, I'll put my own money into NIL. Now, is he going to have to give back some of his salary.
Yeah.
Think about this, Cole. I mean, is there a very real possibility that some of the highest paid coaches in college football take significant pay cuts to help the biggest universities in college football make their NIL payments to players?
Could be. I like that. And the same question I asked Diesel, I want to ask you, Tolos. When you close your eyes and you do that exercise and you think 2025 college football hot seat, first name that comes to mind is who? Diesel said Mike Norvell. I said Brent Venables. I also thought in the same breath Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
Right? He's right there.
Yeah, Lincoln has certainly not lived up to what they expected him to be in Southern California. Leaving Oklahoma might be the worst decision he's made in a long time.
It could be. Let's go into
JB.
What do you say?
JB on the stream says, hot seat, Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Let him lose 4 games again this season and see what happens.
Well, he's right about the second part. If he loses 4 again this year, he's right about that. It'll be.
God, that is such a tremendously high standard.
Yeah, it is. Welcome to Alabama, right?
As they say. Well, that's why they pay you a lot of money also.
Let's dive into these coaches and what their expectations are. Before we do that, let's go to the phone lines. They're open right now at 844-326-3663. Guy wants to join the conversation. Guy, I want to play the same exercise with you, and then I'll let you have the floor. Close your eyes as long as you're not driving, and think college football 2025 hot seat. Who's the first name that comes to mind for Guy?
Okay, I mean, before the season itself starts, I'm not in it as much as y'all are. What I wanted to weigh in on was the Clemson-South Carolina game, and it always sounds wrong the way I say it. I am not from here. I have lived here for 30 years and am well aware of the Clemson. I'm married to a Clemson grad, so
Smart.
I understand the significance of it. Now, if you look at it from a national perspective, and it doesn't help now that you have ACC teams and Big Ten teams on the West Coast. These rivalry games out on the West Coast, they still hold a lot of weight. Clemson, South Carolina is a great rivalry. Let me not underestimate that. But the West Coast, it's not a big deal. The West Coast games are going to have to be at a certain time. If you've got Oregon, Washington, and I don't even know if sometimes Stanford Cal still holds some sort of a weird value to people. These are rivalry games that are seen as every bit the rivalry that South Carolina and Clemson, South Carolina, are.
So, Guy, would I be accurate in saying, putting some words into your mouth, is you saying that are you saying that Clemson and South Carolina is a premier regional rivalry, not a national rivalry?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And again, if the people on the West Coast got to see the game, maybe, but you're pointing out it's rivalry week. Go further out west, there are rivalry games we could care less about, but there are going to be big out there. I don't know what's left of the Pac-12, so whatever they have as a rivalry game out there still might hold some value. You said Oregon, Washington, so it's not Washington, Washington State, Oregon, Oregon State. Oregon, Oregon State is actually a closer game than it should be on paper the last few years. Again, I'm just saying that as great as the Clemson-South Carolina game is, it's not a brand when you cross the Mississippi.
Well, you could say people here in the Southeast, Guy, would say the same thing about Washington versus Oregon. People here probably don't really care that much about it.
Absolutely, but they're looking at ratings.
It's fair. It's fair. We got to think about not how fans think and feel, but it's how guys in suits think and feel.
Well, I'm not a guy in suit, and I'm on the road, by the way. So.
Thanks for the call, Guy.
Thanks, Guy.
That is, while it's not a popular opinion here locally, it's a fair take. Yeah. It's a fair opinion from Guy Diesel because it whether you like it or not, it might hold a little bit of weight.
Well, truthfully, that falls on South Carolina for not being what we all thought and expected and hoped they could be over the past couple of years. Being in the SEC, life's tough. You know, you can find yourself in the middle or at the bottom real quick, even if you've got a good football team. Clemson has done their part by staying inside that top 25 and winning a couple of national championships. South Carolina has not done their part in this rivalry when it comes to making it a national brand, though it seems like that is remedying itself. Couple of years of this game really mattering, top 15, top 20 implications for 2 or 3 years in a row. Now you're talking about an emerging national rivalry.
And again, going back to Guy's point, Diesel, I'm not saying that people on the West Coast care about Clemson and South Carolina, but I do believe when it comes to the overall sentiment of people who watch and follow college football, Clemson, South Carolina moves the meter more than Washington State. Or
by far.
You know what I mean?
I mean, Washington State hasn't been relevant since Mike Leach left.
Right. So the whole West Coast thing, like, I get that we have to, for whatever reason, cater to the West Coast, but I'm not saying this is the premier rivalry in college football. For us here locally, yeah, it is. From a national standpoint, I'm not saying it's the premier rivalry, but I'm not saying it's low on the totem pole either. I think it's top 5 for sure. And for it to be a noon game, it's just kind of puzzling. But it is what it is.
They got to be vying for that noon slate. Now, who was it in the comments said that Michigan, Ohio State is always a noon kickoff? If you say so. Again, I'm not super adept at remembering Michigan, Ohio State scheduling historically.
Sure.
If that's the case,
then it's
going to be really
daytime.
hard for Clemson, South Carolina to get TV ratings against that, because that is a premier national rivalry.
It is. And again, the only thing that I can say, and I think you hinted at it, you have both programs on their way up. And I know T. Swizzle and others on the stream are advocating for this rivalry. You have both programs. Let me rephrase that. I said on the way up. One program's already been to the top. One program is trending toward the top, right, of the sport, because Shane Beamer certainly turned South Carolina into a contender, right? So when you look at the trajectory of the rivalry and where it's headed, hopefully they would get a little bit more respect in the coming years nationally. But again, looking at it from a positive side, Diesel, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe you can get that first audience of the day and show them just how good of a game it was. Last year's game was great, right? Really entertaining, especially at the end. So I guess we shall see. But Tolos, if you still want to comment on the hot seat conversation, Diesel, when I asked him to close his eyes and think college football 2025 hot seat, he said Mike Norvell. I said Lincoln Riley. I also said Brent Venables. What say you at 844-FAN-PHONE? Texter real quick before we run to a break says, to that guy's point, though, there have been plenty of times the rivalry has been a 3:30 kick or a night kick, so I don't buy into the West Coast theory. Our West Coast don't care about it being a noon kick. Yeah, it's a really good, interesting conversation. And by the way, good call as always, Guy. Appreciate you.
Another fantastic conversation coming your way about the NBA Finals game number 3, which is tonight. Coming up in the very next segment, we'll have Brett Siegel of ClutchPoints.com to join us to break down this game and see who needs it most. That is next on the Fan Upstate. more often than not, the team that wins Game 3 in the NBA Finals goes on to win the championship and hoist the trophy. To talk about Game 3, which is tonight at 8:30 on ABC, Thunder and Pacers, we bring on Brett Siegel of ClutchPoints.com, who is live in Indiana for the NBA Finals to talk about it. Welcome to the show, Brett. Really appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here. Let's jump right into it here. We saw Thunder head coach Mark Daigneault adjust tremendously from Game 1 to Game 2. He spread the scoring around, and obviously having a monster performance from SGA again to the tune of 38 points really helps you win a lot of basketball games. In terms of punch, counterpunch, what now do the Pacers need to do to respond? Do they adjust, or do they do what got them here and just be themselves?
What's going on, Cole? Glad to be talking with you live from Indianapolis, where it is bright outside, I can say right now, but there are clouds right now, and maybe that means that we're going to see the Thunder roll again. And they rolled in Game 2. It was a clear win for them from start to finish, and Indiana didn't really put up a fight in that game. They got beat in terms of rebounding. They got beat up and down the court. They were turning the ball over left and right once again. And it never really seemed like anybody was able to settle in to a scoring role. And it's kind of crazy because we were talking about this yesterday at practice, a bunch of us in the media, where Tyrese Halliburton finished as their leading scorer with 17 points. But after 3 quarters, he only had like 6 or 8 points, couldn't get anything going. And that basically tells the tale of what that game was like for the Pacers. They just could not find consistent scoring. And you have to credit Mark Daigneault and the Thunder for making those adjustments on defense compared to what happened in the fourth quarter of Game 1. But when you look at the performance of the Thunder, obviously Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 34 points, 8 assists, a terrific game. Can't discredit him for that. Obviously, if the Thunder go on to win this series, he's going to be Finals MVP. But the hero of Game 2 was the bench, and specifically it was Alex Caruso and it was Aaron Wiggins. Those two guys were fantastic. They combined to make 9 threes on 16 attempts from deep. And if they get that kind of production tonight in Game 3, it's going to be 2-1 Thunder, and they're going to be in the driver's seat for the series.
Really good thought there. Really good answer. I think I agree with you, Brett. Brett Siegel, ClutchPoints.com, live in Indiana for tonight's Game 3. You are hearing someone who's going to be at the game, Tolo. So if you have an NBA question, NBA Finals question for Brett, let us know on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line or on the stream. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. When you look at Tyrese Halliburton in Game 2, I said on the show that I was pretty sure that there was an injury he was dealing with. Turns out he was. He was not really as efficient and aggressive early. He did have a good fourth quarter, but when you look at his health, man, how much do you think that impacts his game tonight?
Well, Rick Carlisle and Halliburton both spoke about it yesterday at practice, and they both downplayed there being any injury. Specifically, Carlisle said that everybody on both teams isn't 100% healthy at this time of year, which is true, and that can go back to every single other playoff series, as we saw guys dealing with wear and tear and not being 100% compared to where they were in the middle of the season. So that's understandable. Everybody's not 100% at this point. You're just trying to finish up the season, finish it strong, and win a championship. But in Halliburton's case, it did seem like late in the game he was bothered by something. He wasn't moving as well up and down the court, running in transition. And then when he stepped away from the podium on Sunday night down in Oklahoma City, there was a very apparent limp, and he was limping back to the locker room, and that's what had everybody talking. He comes in yesterday, says everything's fine, he's good to go. He's a full participant in practice. When I was watching him on the court in the limited time that they let us watch, he looked perfectly fine. He looked like his all-star self. So we'll see what happens. It may have just been something that he tweaked, something that he's been dealing with, a lower body injury, whether it's some kind of calf issue, foot issue. We don't really know. But in terms of his availability, he's 100% ready to go. He's locked in, and he's going to be a major factor tonight for the Pacers if they're going to potentially take a 2-1 series lead.
Brett, to your point about both sides being a little banged up, Coach Day was criticized after Game 1 for leaving his starters in too long, possibly wearing them down. How do you feel about the Thunder's ability to weather a long series if it comes to that, if it comes to 6 or 7?
I think that they're in a better position, honestly, and I think it's because of their depth. And you look at the changes that they've made. They even moved Isaiah Hartenstein to the bench in this series, and that just makes their second unit even stronger because you can now give Chet Holmgren extra rest. You can mix and match with Jalen Williams because he's been the primary defender on Pascal Siakam throughout this series. You can give Lou Dort some extra time to rest when you're bringing in these guys like Alex Caruso and Aaron Wiggins that are producing. So I definitely think that the wear and tear factor favors the Thunder, given they're banged up. Like Shai is obviously dealing with bumps and bruises. Jalen's going to be dealing with bumps and bruises since he's guarding guys that are taller and stronger than him. So it's just one of those things late in the year that to be a champion and to win a championship, you got to be able to overcome adversity, and not only on the court, but off the court with how you're taking care of your body, how you're getting rest, your treatment programs, and that all plays into the series for sure.
And Brett, I think that goes along with the conversation that we had a couple of days ago on the show was the other guys, right? We know the stars on both teams, Halliburton and SGA, are going to show up or at least try to. But the other guys, in my mind, it just feels like the Oklahoma City Thunder have a clear advantage when it comes to the other guys, the cast of characters that surround those stars. I don't know. You tell me, is Pascal Siakam a legit number 2 scorer when you're talking about this Indiana team somehow, some way winning a championship? You can tell me if you completely disagree here, but I said the other night that I know it's only tied, but I think this series is over. I just don't see Indiana winning it. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, I wouldn't go as far to say that yet. I think that we need to see what happens in Game 3, especially with how the Pacers respond, because they're coming off a loss, and when they've come off a loss in the playoffs, they've won every single game so far. So they have not lost back-to-back games in the playoffs. They're a very resilient team. They make very timely adjustments. And the one thing that they have in their favor is that they're going to be in front of a very rowdy crowd in Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight. I think that we've been talking about OKC's crowd being loud and being one of the best fan bases in the NBA. We may see a new level tonight. It's going to be deafening in there. I'm expecting just a madhouse, kind of like what we saw with Knicks fans in Madison Square Garden, where it had that college-like feel to it. I think that we're going to see a lot of that tonight with the Pacers fans, and they're going to be looking to will their team to a win in Game 3. And what it comes down to is obviously you're going to need production from Pascal Siakam. In this series so far, held to 19 points in Game 1 on just under 50% shooting. It was a decent game. He had 10 rebounds there. But Game 2, he was 3 of 11 from the floor, 1 of 4 from three-point range, abysmal 15 points. It didn't really seem like it was 15 points. So he needs to be the factor in this series, not Tyrese Halliburton. You know what you're going to get from Halliburton late in the game. He's going to step up. He's going to make plays. He's going to be able to make guys better and find those guys in the corners for threes, whether it's Neesmith or Nembhard. But Pascal Siakam's a guy that can put the ball on the floor and get something going for himself, especially against a Thunder team that doesn't necessarily know how to guard him yet. They're not putting Chet Holmgren on him. They're putting Lou Dort, and they've been putting Jalen Williams on him, and he has a clear size advantage there. He has the ability to get to that low post, figure out what he wants to do, and from that left side in that low post, he's hit that fadeaway shot multiple times in this series already. When you flash back one series before this for the Pacers, 3 of their wins, Pascal Siakam had 39 points, 30 points, and 31 points against the New York Knicks. In order for the Indiana Pacers to win Game 3 or even Game 4, he's going to have one of those nights on offense.
Brett, you could say that given the Indiana Pacers win-loss record on the road this season, roughly 50-50, splitting the first 2 games on the road at OKC is basically, best case scenario, what they could hope for. Now they come home where they win roughly 70% of the time. Would you say that you could argue that the Pacers kind of have Oklahoma City right where they want them, or would you argue the other way around?
100%. This is obviously the perfect scenario with them being 2-0 coming back home. That would be the perfect scenario. But coming back home 1-1 for Game 3 and having 2 games on your home court is a great scenario for the Indiana Pacers. I mean, they stole Game 1, and everybody saw that. The Thunder know that they gave up Game 1, and that's why the Pacers were kind of playing with house money in Game 2. They went in with the same philosophy, the same mindset. They saw what adjustments the Thunder made. So now after having these last 2-3 days to really sit down, watch the film, recover a little bit, and kind of get back in your own bed, because that plays a big factor in these playoff series of being home and just being able to lay in your own bed rather than sit in a hotel and wait 2 or 3 days between games. There's something refreshing about that mentally, and obviously it's going to play a role tonight. We're going to see these role players, these guys like Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Neesmith, hit some bigger shots. Maybe a guy like Obi Toppin coming off the bench, and he was fantastic for the Pacers in Game 1. Didn't have the best Game 2 performance, so I'm expecting him to bounce back in a big way. He's been one of their main energizing guys at practice. He's been all over Thomas Bryant when they're doing shooting drills and getting in his face and just creating a happy and laughing atmosphere in their practices. Tyrese Halliburton's had a smile on his face. Siakam's been smiling. So I think these guys know the opportunity that's ahead of them. I think that they're going to embrace this opportunity of playing this playoff series in front of their fans and playing this final series in front of their fans. And obviously, the first quarter is going to be so important. They have to set the tone. They can't let things get out of hand. and they're really going to have to keep Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from getting to that nail and getting to the free throw line extended. That's his money spot. That's where he was hitting all these tough shots from in game 2. And obviously, if they can kind of fill the gaps a little bit, not necessarily double team him, but as he starts going on those drives, if they can stunt to him, swipe at that ball, give him a look at a double team, and then recover to their man, that's going to play a big role in the Thunder being able to get inside the paint.
Brett Siegel of ClutchPoints.com joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. Brett is in Indiana live, boots on the ground for tonight's Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Brett, when you, I want to step away real quick from the NBA Finals and ask you another NBA-related question. When you saw the news that the Dallas Mavericks have denied the New York Knicks' request to interview Jason Kidd, your thoughts were?
My thoughts are that this was a premature decision to fire Tom Thibodeau, and obviously it's one that came from the very top with Leon Rose, but they don't see a championship future with Tom Thibodeau. That's fine, but what's your plan here? Who are you going to go after? Because all these top candidates that you had on your list, whether it was Jay Wright, Dan Hurley, Jason Kidd, Chris Finch, Ime Udoka, none of them want the job, or I won't say that. The 2 college guys don't want the job. Jay Wright and Dan Hurley don't want the job. They don't want to interview for it. Chris Finch, Ime Udoka denied access by their teams to interview for it. I wouldn't really expect either of them to have interest in that job. They're in a good situation where they are. Jason Kidd, that's the question mark. Does he have interest in going to the Knicks? And I do believe that interest is mutual between the 2 sides. It's just the fact that he's under contract with the Mavericks. They're denying permission from the Knicks to be able to talk to him. And now it's kind of this situation that's up in the air. Well, is Jason Kidd able to get himself out of that contract, or does he have leeway with the Mavericks to be able to talk to them and kind of steer things in a different direction if he truly doesn't want to be there? It's just a major question mark right now that people around the league don't have answers to. And as far as other candidates that the Knicks could now turn to, who knows at this point? There's just really no clear path to getting a guy that you can bring in, has an established track record, and you can be comfortable with him if you're a Knicks fan and say, yes, this guy can be our coach and lead us to a championship. The only name that I see out there right now that makes sense, and we've been talking about for a while, but it doesn't seem like there's any real traction there at the start, is Michael Malone. Yeah. Maybe all roads lead back to Michael Malone and he ends up in New York, because I think that would ultimately be the best situation between the 2 sides. But we'll see what happens. It's a very interesting situation, especially because there have been reports that Jason Kidd and the Knicks have that mutual level of interest, but the Mavericks have denied access for an interview.
At Brett Siegel NBA is where you can find him on Twitter, pushing towards 22,000 followers. We invite all of our Tolos to go find Brett and give him a follow, help him hit that 22,000 follower mark. We talked about him just a minute ago, Pascal Siakam, the lone Pacer with playoff experience, 2019 with the Raptors. Everybody else on that team is making their finals debut. OKC kind of in the same boat with Alex Caruso. In what ways have you seen the inexperience from both of these teams rear its ugly head so far?
It's a good question, and I've kind of asked myself that at times, especially when I was watching Game 2 and looking for those little things. Is there anything that stands out where this lack of finals experience at the moment's too big for them? And I don't really think that there's been anything, and I don't know if that plays into the whole idea of it doesn't feel like a final series or whatnot. I mean, both these teams are fighting like it's a final series. Both these teams know what's at stake, and they're playing for a championship. Each are 3 wins away from achieving that goal. But I can't really necessarily say there's one thing that I can point to and say, yes, that's from a lack of experience in the finals. I mean, both teams can improve upon certain areas, and I guess that will take this question in a different direction, where the Pacers' turnovers have been a problem. In Game 1, they had 24, 25 turnovers in that game. Game 2, 15 turnovers, and they've led this series for maybe, a minute and a half? They haven't been in front at all. So their series has been controlled by the Thunder. You have to be able to push the pace against the Thunder. That's how you beat their defense, but you have to do it smart. You can't have these turnovers where not even the Thunder have a chance to steal it. And Rick Carlisle kind of joked about that in his press conference yesterday. He said over half their turnovers, the Thunder haven't even had a chance to get their hands on it. That's how bad they've been. And it's true. They've been throwing the ball into the stands. They've been careless with it, just dribbling it off their foot. So little things like that you can correct, and it takes away fast break opportunities from the Thunder, who really like to get out and push it against the Pacers so far in this series, especially in Game 2. And then when you flip the script and look at the Thunder of what they can improve, I really think that they need to be able to get Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein more looks in the paint and down low, because if you can get Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam in foul trouble there and you can kind of slow things down, it all of a sudden puts pressure on the Pacers because they're not necessarily the biggest team. If Miles Turner gets 3 fouls in the first half or Siakam gets 3 fouls or 4 fouls, you're looking at Obi Toppin and Thomas Bryant as your two guys coming in at the front court, and neither are going to be strong rebounding factors against guys like Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. So you're immediately going to have the advantage on the glass. That was the case in Game 2. And obviously moving forward, I think that the Thunder, outside of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams doing their thing, if they can really look to get those post opportunities and get Chet Holmgren going, it's going to open up their offense so much more.
Brett, my last question for you, man. Mark Daigneault, under the radar much of his career, and man, I don't know if anybody's done a better coaching job than him this season. Do you think he's getting the respect that he deserves, or when you talk about other big name coaches, right, across the NBA, you usually don't throw his name in there, but maybe it's time we put some respect on his name, right?
Across the league, he has a ton of respect. Between all the coaches in the league, other executives, players, they look at this guy and they really do respect him. And I like to compare him to a young Eric Spoelstra when he was with the Heat, and he kind of worked his way up. And that's kind of the mutual feeling that you get, especially from some players I know around the league. Like when you just are having those conversations and coaches come up, they view him as that, and they see him as this young basketball mind, analytical-driven guy who's really built a culture in OKC. This is a young team that's been together for 3, 4, 5 years, yet they all play like a group of multi-year veterans together. They almost look like the San Antonio Spurs when they were on those championship runs with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. And I'm not comparing their players to that. I'm not saying that it's the same culture and the same skill level as those guys, because they're all Hall of Famers. The Thunder guys are still unknowns. They're early on in their career. But when you talk about the comfortability of playing together and just playing off one another and knowing where they're going to be on the court, that's the kind of sense I get. And it's just a group that's so together. It's a family-like atmosphere in OKC, and Mark Daigneault deserves a lot of credit for building that.
Brett, given what you know about Coach Carlisle and the Pacers GM Chad Buchanan, and conversely Coach Daigneault and Sam Presti over there in Oklahoma City, is this a future regular NBA Finals rivalry in the making where we could see both of these teams poised to make deep runs over the next couple of seasons? Or do you think one of them is kind of shooting their one and only best shot and will sort of fade away as we get a couple years down the road?
I think both teams are going to be a part of the mix moving forward, at least. And it's hard to project in today's NBA because you can't say 4, 5, 6 years. It's more of a 2 to 3 window now, especially with the second apron rules and the CBA coming into effect and the way that teams make trades nowadays. So every team's kind of operating on that 2 to 3 year window. And I do think that both those teams are going to be in that window for championships because the Thunder aren't going anywhere. They're a young team. They're going to be able to keep their core through the CBA and the second apron restrictions. The Pacers, they know what they're doing. It seems like that they're going to be able to pay a little bit more to keep this team together, especially with Miles Turner. I just don't see any scenario where he's not back in a Pacers uniform next season. He wants to stay. The Pacers want him to stay. They're going to find mutual ground on a new contract there. So I think that the vast majority of that core is going to be back for the Pacers, even though earlier in the year it seemed like that they weren't going to pay the taxes. But now that they made the NBA Finals, now that the Celtics are going to be falling out of the mix with their injury situation, the Bucks, who knows what's going to happen there, you look at the Pacers, and they're going to be a top 3 team in the East next season with this roster, looking at the Cleveland Cavaliers and New York Knicks next to them. So their opportunity to win a championship is right there with some teams falling out of the mix. And then obviously the Wild West, the Thunder, they're still going to be a top team, but it's crazy out there because there's like 7 or 8 teams that when I just look at the names of Stephen Curry with the Warriors, he's still there. The Clippers with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, will they make a big splash? You still have the Denver Nuggets with Jokic. What's going to happen in year 2 with Luka and LeBron? The Houston Rockets, are they going to get Kevin Durant? So there's just so many teams out there that can win a championship. So to make this opportunity and get to the NBA Finals out of the West, you have to take advantage of it, which is why I think that in this series there's more pressure on the Thunder to win a championship this year than there is the Pacers.
Brett, always fantastic stuff. We really appreciate you taking time to join us, man.
Absolutely. Hope everybody enjoys the game. I'm going to be heading over there shortly.
Brett Siegel, clutchpoints.com, as you just heard, in Indiana. Diesel on the ground for tonight's NBA Finals Game 3. Tolos, look, you may not be the biggest NBA fan or the biggest fan of this sport or that sport, but we do bring you the guests who are there covering it on the daily basis right here on the Fan Upstate. So really appreciate Brett. That's good stuff there.
Yeah, love his time, love his insight. He, again, is one of the fastest growing young people covering NBA basketball. And go find him and give him a follow on Twitter at Brett Siegel, Siegel NBA.
Our reactions to Brett's interview and our predictions for what happens tonight, a couple of key stats regarding Game 3 of the NBA Finals. That's next. Diesel mentioned this yesterday. The Game 3 winner in an NBA Finals game or an NBA Finals 7-game series has gone on to win the series 32 out of 40 times. That is an 80% success rate. So whoever wins tonight, Diesel, has a really good shot of going on to win the NBA Finals. I, tonight, am going to roll with the Oklahoma City Thunder once again. I picked them in Game 2, and I know they'll be the road team. I know they're going into enemy territory, if you will, but I'm still rolling with Oklahoma City tonight. I think it'll be closer than Game 2, but I am going to take the Thunder an 8 tonight. Ooh. 8-point win for the Oklahoma City Thunder. What say you?
Well, I brought up that stat in that interview question when I asked about Oklahoma City winning 70% of their home games. And that's really good, right? They win 7 out of 10. They're basically 50-50 on the road. The problem with that is that Oklahoma City wins 80% of their road games. So you got a team that's better on the road than you are at home. And that is a big deal, especially when you play in the West. That's a little deeper, a little stronger than the East. It's like comparing an SEC team, a bottom-of-the-barrel SEC team, to like a great Sun Belt team.
Yeah.
There's just you're not playing the same game here. So I still want to hold out hope that the Pacers can get it done, but it may be feeling like a little bit of a fool's hope at this point.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma City wins the game just because I want to see you lose money on this. I think they fail to cover, so they win.
Close game, huh?
Closer than 8.
I like what Brett said about Halliburton. I do think his injury, though, is a little more serious than he's letting on. I mean, he didn't look right. And I know he told reporters yesterday that he was good to go, Diesel, and, yeah. But, look, he has – my only concern is he's disappeared at times. And, like, he was not aggressive at all to start the game in Game 2. And I think kind of like Brett Siegel just said, I think how they come out, how Indiana comes out tonight is going to be crucial in that first quarter. Because if you get behind the 8 ball again and Oklahoma City starts clamping down that defense again, this series really could start to sway away from the Indiana Pacers, Diesel.
Indiana needs their stars to be just that tonight. They have to be unbelievable. And I think you gotta hold SGA down to 25 points or less.
Yeah, you got to figure out how to do it.
If you can do that, you might have a decent enough chance to get it done. When we come back, Cole, we're back into talking about the majors. The U.S. Open at Oakmont starts tomorrow, as a matter of fact. What exactly makes Oakmont so difficult? We've set this course up like it's a quest to take a ring to Mordor. Why is it so hard to play at Oakmont? We'll talk about it next on the Fan Upstate. Cole, if you had to put a number on it, exactly where do you think our studio floor, carpeted as it is, would fall on the stimp meter?
You know, I haven't spent a lot of time around the stimp meter.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know.
Do you have any idea what a stimp is?
I would imagine it's something to do with gauging the rough.
It's gauging the speed of the greens.
Okay.
Yeah, they call them stimps, even though they mean feet. The stimp meter, Cole, here's how it works. They roll a golf ball down a ramp set to a specific angle, and they see how far the ball rolls. Very simple. Yeah. How many feet? How many stimps?
Why would I need to know
they call
that
them
in my
stimps? I don't know, but they call it that because Oakmont is super high on the stimp meter. That's going to be one of the biggest challenges that the world's best golfers are going to face this weekend at the upcoming U.S. Open at Oakmont Country Club. They haven't played the U.S. Open at Oakmont in 9 years, since 2016. Here we go, Cole. It's basically like putting on ice. That's going to be one of the biggest challenges, but certainly not the only big challenge for these golfers at the U.S. Open. Tolos, who do you like for the U.S. Open, which again starts tomorrow, the opening rounds, which means they're out there on the course right now playing some practice rounds. Who do you like? Jump into the text line at 844-326-3663. You can call in as well, 844-FAN-PHONE. It's the same number whether you text or call. You can reply and drop a comment on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Who are your favorites to win this weekend at the U.S. Open? Oakmont, though, is a beast of a golf course, Cole, and we are not likely, unless something wild happens, unless these guys figure it out, we're not likely to see monster scores being put up over the weekend where these guys finish at like totaling -12, -15.
You don't think? No, you wouldn't think. You wouldn't think. It is going to be a challenging weekend, Diesel, even with the stimp meters, because I do think that. And again, I don't know.
I would have thought it was something way dirtier than.
What's that?
How far the ball rolls.
Well, I mean, I would like to know if our Tolos even know what a stimp meter is. I mean, who knows what is some kind of rod or something you lay down on the green, right?
Somebody's going to call in and like, how do you guys host a sports talk show and not know about the stimp meter?
Well, why would we know about that? Why would I know about that? I could care less what a stimp meter is, but I will give you a stat.
You guys are idiots.
I will give you a stat, Diesel, that I saw on Twitter earlier today, and I will admit that I didn't think it was this rough when it comes to the U.S. Open. Now, Oakmont is challenging, but because it's the U.S. Open, they make it more challenging. So it's a little bit rougher. It's a little bit tougher of a course this weekend than it normally is. And Claire Rogers, Diesel, tweeted this out. And I retweeted this at the Cole Bryson on Twitter. Claire is with golf.com. Fun Oakmont fact from Mike Wan. I guess Mike's the one that tweeted this out originally. Here's your fact. You ready, Diesel? Get your stimp meter ready because you're going to need it to understand this.
Hang on, let me take it out of my pocket and unfold it. Here we go.
1,385 players have teed it up here for a U.S. Open. So, again, 1,300 players, just over 1,300 players have teed it up at Oakmont for the U.S. Open, right? Mm-hmm. 28 have finished under par. Do you know how many percent that is?
I'm going to say
that's 2%.
28 out of 1,300.
It's 2.
Wow.
2%.
I'm not good at quick math.
Have finished under par.
Yeah,
that is ridiculous.
Right. We talk about this course being difficult, the way that it plays really, really difficult. Some people, though, may just think, oh, well, it's set up difficult. What does that actually mean? Well, like we were saying, crazy fast greens, severely sloped greens make it really hard to putt. Downhill putts are really hard because you barely got to tap the ball. Uphill putts, deceptively hard to stop near the hole as well. I mean, think about it. You could be on a good line, leave it short, and that ball turns around and comes back towards you. Tons of bunkers at this course, over 200 bunkers at Oak Hill Country Club, including the famous Church Pew bunker between holes 3 and 4. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's diabolical. with the way they set this thing up. It's a huge bunker. In case you haven't seen it, it's a huge, wide open bunker, but it's got little rows of church pew-like grass in the middle. So no matter where you land in this thing, you're going to have to get out of a deep bunker over some grass. It's a tough bunker to deal with. They're deep, they're unforgiving, steep faces, which means a lot of times you just got to pitch out sideways and not even try to attack the hole out of a fairway bunker. I mean, it puts these guys into a spot where they have to play conservative. They have to be extremely accurate off the tee, because we've both seen videos of people walking with a golf ball up to the deep rough and just dropping it, and it disappears. I mean, like, the ball will set up on the rough for a split second,
I think that's a little
and then it
much.
just falls in and disappears.
I just don't like that. I just don't.
I love it.
I want it to be somewhat realistic, though. That's my problem. Like, my thing is, like, if you are expecting your golfers to always hit fairways, that's just not realistic. Even the best golfers in the world, Diesel, are going to miss the fairways. And do I like it to be competitive? Yeah, but for the ball to disappear when you're standing over it, looking down like this, I mean, that is crazy.
Yeah.
But again,
you might as well take a scythe. I don't know if it's legal in golf to take a grass cutting scythe out there with you, but it feels like you need to have one in the bag.
Again, this is Oakmont's 10th time hosting the U.S. Open, Diesel, the most of any venue. So it's been at Oakmont more than it's been anywhere else. I am looking forward to it. I'll tell you this, the PGA Championship Sunday was really fun, right? But other than that, it was not fun. I was surprised to see in a video last night, we've got some really good audio pertaining to golf coming up at 5 o'clock in the audio blitz, but I was surprised to see Diesel Rory practiced last week here at Oakmont. And Rory played the course last week, and I will say, Rory played this course really, really well. And I wouldn't expect Rory to go out and win it this weekend. I wouldn't put it past him, but I wouldn't expect him to. But the fact that he was able to play the course as well as he did a week ago, it does give you a little bit of confidence just when you talk about the top golfers in the world, because even a guy like Scotty Scheffler, who is the best golfer on planet Earth right now, Diesel, even he is going to be challenged this weekend.
Yeah.
And that's going to be tough.
Yeah, we'll tell you why he's going to be challenged here coming up in a second. Looking at the weather this weekend for Oakmont Country Club there in Pennsylvania, Thursday and Friday, highs in the 80s with, decently high humidity, 50% to 70%. Not a ton of wind, but it looks like on Saturday and Sunday, there's going to be some thunderstorms coming in. Saturday really going to be a nasty day, which, depending on exactly how much rain it puts down, Sunday we could have another mud ball situation on our hands if they have a lot of saturating rain that sits on top of them on Saturday.
Or do the balls even reach the mud? I mean, if that rough is like it is, I mean, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it's almost better to miss the rough completely and put the ball out of bounds, right? Yeah. It's almost better to just go ahead and take your drop, set it, drop it where you want it, instead of trying to hack it out of that deep lettuce. That's a tough spot. Tough spot.
I think I'd rather be in the bunker. I think I'd much rather be in the bunker.
But the bunkers are so steep. How do you get out of it?
It's crazy. I will say, I think the most interesting thing to me is, can Bryson repeat at the U.S. Open? He did last year. We all remember the epic collapse with Rory McIlroy, right? He had it won, and it was over. Rory just chokes it away, Diesel, and Bryson wins it last year. Can he repeat? I'll tell you this. I think he can. I think Bryson's game sets up well. He hits it hard, and he hits it far.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at Oakmont, it's different than where it was played last year. I think his game will set up well with this course. It is challenging, but I do think Bryson, Diesel, I expect him to be in the top 5, 6 or so when Sunday comes around. I think he absolutely has a shot to win it this weekend.
Well, logically speaking, if Bryson can put another 40, 50, 60 yards past your average golfer, even if he hits it in the rough, there's fewer strokes right there to get out of the rough, and he's going to have to hit the ball hard to get it up and out of that stuff. U.S. Open basically sets this course up, or the PGA basically sets this course up to where par is a good score. So we're going to see a lot of guys ending up in the plus side of things. In 2007, Angel Cabrera won the U.S. Open at +5. In 1994, Ernie Els won it at -5. In 2016, Dustin Johnson won here at Oakmont at -4. But, for the most part, like I said, we're not going to see guys going out there and absolutely dominating this course. We're going to see the course dominating them. So the question is, who does this set up nicely for, Cole? There's a couple of guys whose games could set up well for this course. Scotty Scheffler being very accurate off the tee. That's going to be a monster. The monster for him. The guys that can hit the most fairways are going to be in contention to win this thing. Bryson, he's going to try to overpower the course. Can he get his mind right a little bit? I sort of question where he is mentally over the course of a long tournament like this, though he has won it before, so that's not to say that he can't do it. Scotty and Bryson, really good candidates. I like Xander Schauffele a lot, because he's really accurate off the tee as well. He's great out of bunkers. I think Xander, he's not going to overpower the course, but he's going to out-execute the course.
I was talking to a buddy of mine who we've had on the show multiple times, Diesel, Brock Hamrick of the Cherokee Chronicle. We had him on when Limestone closed down. Brock's a good friend of mine, and Brock played Oakmont just under a year ago. And he was telling me just how tough it is. And I texted him earlier and told him he should call in when we're talking golf. He's probably busy and can't do it. But I'll tell you what, man, he told me to be able to play it, to be able to see it in person. He said, Cole, I don't know if anybody finishes above par this weekend. So that's where we are. I mean, the winning score, are we talking about
par?
Even? I mean,
yeah.
Or worse. I mean, I don't know. You could very well see a scenario if it is this tough, if it is this challenging, where we don't see many minus signs on that leaderboard Sunday, right?
If I ever played Oakmont, which, again, I'll never get a chance to do, but if I did, I'd buy some golf balls with a little metal core inside so that if I hit it off into the rough, I could take a metal detector out there and find it, because that's the only way to get your ball back.
Yeah.
You said Rory was spending some time practicing here at Oakmont, was playing well. I hope that he can get his mental side of the game right, because if he starts to struggle, I don't see Rory making the cut again, because he struggled last week, didn't make the cut, finished somewhere at like the +12 range.
Wasn't
good for 2 days on a golf course. That's not good. He's kind of erratic off the tee. Jordan Spieth is erratic off the tee as well. I don't like either one of those guys to play well.
He's an interesting storyline. Rory is, just for the simple fact. I think I can get Brock. I think he had just asked for the number. Let's see if I can get him to call in real quick. Rory's interesting, Diesel, just for the simple fact that we don't know where he is. We don't know where he is mentally. I heard some audio, and I'll play it for you at 5 o'clock, but I heard some audio, Diesel, from Rory where it almost sounded like he was thinking about hanging it up. Like it just was, It was just weird. Like he didn't sound, he didn't sound uber confident that he was going to play for many more years. And I'm not saying he's going to hang it up, but he seemed very, very content. And after winning, the career Grand Slam, rightfully so, right? But I think that when you look at the U.S. Open, what happened to Rory last year and what he did in Augusta just a couple of months ago, Diesel, I think that storyline is still fresh, in terms of all of the guys in the field. I think that's one of the most interesting storylines this weekend.
Yeah, I can understand where his head is at potentially if he has put everything of his being into winning the Masters over the past, what was the streak? Like 10 years since he won his last major?
Long time.
Putting everything into this, like all your waking thought goes into winning at Augusta. You finally get it. You just want to take a break for a little while, right? You want golf to become fun again. You want to not take it so seriously. You may not want to play competitive golf on this stage anymore. I hope not, because Rory's still young enough to go out there and play well and win a couple of more tournaments before his competitive days are over, before he moves on up to the senior tour. But I can understand why he's got a little bit of but I hesitate to call it senioritis.
I know.
But you get what I mean. It's like he's already done what he came here to do. Now he can stop trying so hard, get out of the way.
I hope that doesn't happen. By the way, Brock, who I was just mentioning, who just played Oakmont, a few months ago, maybe a year or so ago, I was able to string him into the phone lines and talk him in, peer pressure him into joining us for a minute or two. Brock Hamrick, Cherokee Chronicle, you've heard him on this station before. Just how hard is Oakmont, Brock?
It's as hard as it gets, guys, and I appreciate you having me on. And you're right, Cole. I went up there last June and had the opportunity to stay on property and play 2 rounds at Oakmont, arguably the most historic club in the country. And it is as hard as it gets. You know, I've been fortunate enough to play a lot of good golf courses, some easy, some hard. But, you know, usually on most holes you have a place to bail out or a place to miss it. But at Oakmont, it's not about feet, it's about inches. And just a fraction can really put you in a tough spot. And I'm really looking forward to this weekend because I think for the professionals, for them, that challenge is going to be even more so this week with the way the rough is. I think they're going to have some issues finding golf balls. They said they have about 50 volunteers at least that will be out there just helping look for golf balls.
We should volunteer to do
Whenever
that.
I was there, the rough was not that bad. The greens were very, very, very fast, but the rough was not that bad. It will be bad this week, and that'll be the most fun part to watch.
Brock, if you don't mind me asking, how did you play in your 2 rounds at Oakmont relative to where you are as a handicap?
I would say I was probably about 6 to 7 shots worse up there, but I played really well. So I shot 80-78, and normally I shoot around par. So, like I say, it requires great attention, but I feel like when you play a lot and you get in a situation like that for the professionals, it's going to bring out their best, and that's what it requires up there. And, I hit some really good shots and some pretty poor ones as well. Henry Founds is actually the architect and the founder of the golf club in 1903. He said a shot, pretty much saying that if a shot is missed, that it should be a shot irrevocably lost. And that's the way he believed. If you make a bad swing, if you make a mistake, you're going to pay the ultimate price for it.
Do you think it's too challenging for this weekend?
I don't think so, and I enjoyed the conversation y'all were talking about as far as relative to par and what that winning score may be. If you go back to 2007 when that U.S. Open was at Oakmont, Bob Ford, who was the longtime professional there, said that was the one time that they were able to get the golf course like they wanted it, and over par won the tournament. You go back to 2016, Dustin Johnson was under par when he won at Oakmont and finished his 72nd hole with a birdie, but then again, they had rain leading up to the tournament. That is not the case this week. I think around par is going to be a really good score. I don't think it's going to be too challenging, but guys, they can adjust. If they see that it's out of hand with the rough, they'll have them out there cutting that night or early in the morning. So they may adjust depending on how these scores come out tomorrow.
Do you think it's good for golf? I mean, do fans – I love it personally. I love watching these guys challenged and hacking their way through a golf course like this. But do you think it's good for golf when you're seeing it on TV? The average fan is watching this on television and seeing these guys struggling out there. Is it good, bad, or neither?
I think it's good, and I'm like you, Diesel. I love to see it. I love to see the carnage. That's what I keep saying. I want to see carnage this weekend. Now, the thing is, you got to think about it. This is not every week. And while there will be a lot of maybe new eyes this weekend on the U.S. Open, I think the average golf fan and most folks that maybe only turn it on just for the major championships understand that this is the ultimate test. That's what this tournament is meant to be. And that's what I think it will play out as. So I think it will be well received by the golf fans. I know that the friends of mine that we love watching golf, and we want to see around even par or even over par win this golf tournament. It's just something a little different because it seems like now it's just poke and gouge on every golf course, and the scores are just out there.
Brock, you're the best, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.
You know, Diesel, one quick point I was thinking about while Brock was talking there, and again, Tolos, if you just tuned in, I peer pressured Brock to call in. He played Oakmont a year ago, and wanted to hear firsthand. Do you think, Diesel, that this weekend the courses that the LIV guys play versus the courses that the PGA guys play, do you think you'll see any advantage from either the PGA guys or the LIV guys? I'm not saying the courses are extraordinarily different over the pond where those live guys play. I'm just curious though, from a golf fan standpoint, somebody that doesn't play a lot or play at all, if there will be any difference in any advantage that one may have over the other.
I mean, that's hard to say because, I mean, to be honest, I don't watch much live
right,
golf at all, right? So I don't know. I don't know if there are courses where they play that are set up even remotely like this, right? I mean, we have kind of had that running storyline since the split happened, and Bryson and Phil and John and those guys go off over to the live side of things. Are they going to be able to stand up mentally to the rigors of Augusta National or whatever it may be, the U.S. Open? And so far, I mean, they've performed just fine, right? They've been right there in the mix. They haven't dominated. They haven't been dominated. So I think I think they're fine. Like these guys, most of them, they've all played these courses before. Yeah. So it's not like any of this is brand new. It's not like I think they play fewer rounds and they do sort of shotgun starts in live. That's a little different from the way the PGA is set up. Again, I don't watch a lot of live, so I don't know how the formats.
I don't even know how to watch live.
Yeah, so I mean, nobody does fly to the Saudi desert. And
quick notable,
find it?
Dustin Johnson, Diesel won in Oakmont in 2016.
Yep.
Live guy. So it's interesting. I'm intrigued. To what you said. You and Brock both said y'all like it, that it's going to be challenging. And maybe Diesel, my opinion will change. I said a few minutes ago that I didn't like that it was going to be so challenging. Maybe when I watch starting tomorrow, maybe my opinion will change. Maybe I'll like the challenging course. I just think ultimately it is going to be tough. And can you imagine if what you and Brock said comes true, that we're talking about a winning score +1 or even? I mean, come on, think about that. That's completely different than what we're used to, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I just asked ChatGPT what courses are harder, live or PGA courses, and ChatGPT says that in generally speaking, PGA courses are set up to be tougher, longer yardages, narrower fairways, thicker roughs, faster greens, more hazards. And live is more of a fan-friendly type of course where you could see yourself as a decent golfer going out and playing well on these courses. But again, I don't think it's really affected the guys that have left to go play live golf as much as we all thought it would. So I think maybe with a couple more years of data points here, we could officially put that storyline to rest, that the live guys just can't handle a really tough major championship.
Real quick before we run to a break, did you watch Grant Horvat at Oakmont on YouTube? That was good. It was really good.
No.
So he played last week here, right, on the Korn Ferry Tour at the BMW Charity Pro-Am. He released immediately the Oakmont video. So I would imagine that the BMW video is coming soon, because they videoed all that. That'll be fun to watch as well. I would imagine that's going to be in the next few days or a week or so. But the Grant Horvat Oakmont video, I will say, he played well on some holes, but he struggled. It is great to watch. If you like Grant Horvat,
I love his content.
I'm
excited to watch it.
Man.
I'm excited to watch his PGA content and let him show off Thornblade and let him show off Greenville a little bit. You know, we talked to the tournament director earlier this week, and he was really excited to be able to say, look, millions of people are going to watch Grant's content from Thornblade Club. And that means just how many more people are going to say, you know what, I'm going to go check this place out. I got to get myself out there and play.
It's interesting. It really is. I'm looking forward to it, though, Diesel. Just like you said, tomorrow we'll crank this thing up in the third major of the year. We are just about a month away from the MLB All-Star Game season flying by. Where do we sit? Who do we think are the leaders in the clubhouse? And who needs to make a move before the trade deadline? Maybe a local team in that conversation? We'll talk about it next. Well, Diesel, we are nearing the middle of the MLB season, about a month away from the MLB All-Star break. And you know what? Fans here locally are already ready for baseball season to be over because the Atlanta Braves are not good right now.
Can we just focus on the Spartan Burgers instead?
Yes, absolutely. They lost last night too, by the way.
Man.
Come on, Spartan Burgers.
But they're still over 500,
They
and
are.
that's what matters.
By the way, the Braves won earlier today, 6-2. So the Braves have won 2 out of 3. There's that for you. Positive. Hey, we're being positive. 2 out of 3. But when you look at the complete picture, MLB, and Tolo, Tolo's out there. You baseball fans, chime in at 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. We're, at the point in the year, Diesel, here we are entering the summer months, right? You're looking to see who the pretenders are, and you're looking to see who the contenders are. National League, you have the Mets, who have won 43 games. You have the Cubs, who have won 40 games. You have the Dodgers, who have won 40 games. The Dodgers are in a tight race with the Giants and the Padres, but the Dodgers, these will have like 12 guys that are not healthy. So most of their rosters injured, and they're still a 40-win team. The American League, you have the Yankees, who are a 40-win team, really good. The Tigers, who are maybe the best team in baseball, 44 wins. And the Astros, who have 36 wins and a small lead over the Mariners. It feels like the competition thus far in the National League between the Mets, Cubs, Dodgers, and even the Giants and Padres, really good teams, it feels like the race, Diesel, in the National League is tight and is going to continue to get more and more tight as the season goes on. Philadelphia Phillies were up there in the conversation. They lost like 2 of their last 8. They're on a little bit of a skid. But the New York Mets and the Cubs and Dodgers, it's going to be a tight race in my mind when you talk about the National League heading into the middle part of the season.
Yeah, it's still hard for me to move on from the Dodgers because they're just so loaded with talent. The Mets are too.
So loaded, yeah.
But the Mets, they historically, not that it should matter, but somehow it always seems to happen, the Mets do tend to fade down the stretch. So we'll see. I mean, we're still relatively early in this season. I know approaching the midway point. We'll see if the Mets can hang on. We'll see if the Phillies can push. If I had to put money on it, I'd probably say that the Phillies push their way up past the Mets very slowly as the season goes along. We'll just see what happens with them. But the Dodgers, I think, they are the class of the National League, and they'll represent them in the World Series.
And you know what's crazy about it? They have so much talent, and they have so many injuries right now that you would think any other team, Diesel, that's full of human beings, when they have as many injuries as the Dodgers, they would take a step back. The Dodgers are still that good. They're still as good as anybody, and that kind of just goes to show how scary this team is.
Kind of just wait till they get healthy,
right,
and watch and see what happens.
I agree with you that I think the Dodgers are still the class of the National League, while the Mets are really good. I'll tell you this: it's not fun to say this as a Braves fan, but I am really, really intrigued by the New York Mets this year. And you mentioned their ability to collapse or fade at some points during the course of the latter part of the season, which is true. But I don't know, man. I just think there might be a little bit something different about this year's New York Mets team. And Braves fans don't want to hear that. I mean, it's always been the Mets have been the most hated team if you are an Atlanta Braves fan. But they're just really good. They're really good. And I was listening yesterday to an interview on the show, Rich Eisen show right before we come in the air, Diesel. And Rich Eisen was interviewing John Smoltz, former Atlanta Brave. Funny, by the way, quick side note. In their entire interview, you know how many Braves questions Rich Eisen asked John Smoltz?
Hopefully none.
0.
Good. The Braves stink. Don't talk about them.
Well, see, I was hoping to hear John Smoltz's opinion as to what's going on, how to fix it. As a Braves fan,
just call him up and get him on the show then.
Well, maybe we should. But as a Braves fan, I'm listening to that interview yesterday thinking, okay, when's he going to ask about the Braves? When's he going to ask about what's going wrong? What's going on? I'm dying for – I mean, yeah, they suck, but I'm still a Braves fan. And you didn't ask him a single question. Come on, Rich. He played for the Braves. Not one Braves question. But Anyways, back to my original point. John Smoltz on the Rich Eisen show yesterday was talking about the Detroit Tigers maybe being the best team in the entire MLB, the best overall record, Diesel. You do have a team that's just really, really deep. They're really, really strong at the plate. I think with the best record, they're going to have strong representation in the All-Star game. If they go out at the All-Star break or before the trade deadline and really add maybe to their bullpen, maybe add one guy here, one guy there, I think this Detroit Tigers team will be talked about in the fall, in August, September, as a legit contender to make a run and win the World Series. But I don't know. I do think the story's interesting at the top. You look at teams like the Atlanta Braves, who are probably not going to be sellers, but I don't know that they're going to be buyers. You have this one group of teams like the Braves, Diamondbacks, Nationals, Diesel, who aren't doing good right now. And I just don't necessarily know for those teams, and Braves specifically, because they're local to our audience. At what point do you don't publicly do this, but at what point is the GM do you say, you know what, it doesn't really matter what we do at the trade deadline, the season's a wash, we're not going to go out and waste time bringing guys in?
Well, it really depends on how stubborn Alex Anthopoulos is, right? Is he as stubborn as Madcraft? Does he believe that this roster is loaded with talent and that they are good enough to be an elite team and push into the playoffs? Just for whatever reason, they haven't put it together yet. I mean, how stubborn is Alex Anthopoulos? How married to his system of get them while they're young, sign them to long-term contracts? How ingrained is that in him? How willing is he to admit that, well, things aren't working with Brian Snitker anymore, and we've got to make a move. We've got to change our manager. Even I don't know if the answer is fire him mid-season. I know how you feel about it. I know how Dewey feels about it, and a lot of our Braves Tolos feel about it. But they may not make that decision. I would say go ahead and do it sooner rather than later. That gives you more time and gives you the opportunity to take your time and vet out the candidates. But is he going to be willing to make any kind of moves, or is he stubbornly believing that he's right?
I just wish, as a Braves fan, on the 11th day of June, we were sitting here talking about the Braves as one of these top teams. JD on the stream says the Braves should make a move, but it obviously won't help them this season as they're not making the playoffs. He says, my logic is to make a move now. We won't have to worry about making so many moves in the offseason. Let's see. He says, looking at the NL standings as a whole, it's depressing for Braves fans. JB on the YouTube stream says the Cubs are real good too. I have been impressed with Chicago, JB. They played Detroit really well over the weekend, and they're a strong team. Maybe a little bit of a sleeper team, right? They weren't in the conversation of the teams I just read off and mentioned. They're not at the very top in terms of the best record in baseball, but the Cubs are really good. You look at guys who are having the best seasons, Diesel, in the American League and National League. Hitting leaders, Aaron Judge leading .396 batting average. Trying to beat that right now. It was pretty good, right? When it comes to pitching, the AL win leader is, this one's going to hurt, former Atlanta Braves, Max Fried. 9 wins so far this season. Tearing it up. Imagine that, right? You let him walk. The NL ERA leader out of the New York Mets is Kodai Senga, 1.59 ERA. Mackenzie Gore leads the NL in strikeouts, 114 strikeouts. You don't see any Atlanta Braves up here when you talk about these standouts. They are off to their worst start, by the way, since 2014, the Atlanta Braves are. But I'll tell you what, I just don't know that when you look at buyer versus seller, yeah, the Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, they all might be buyers to try to get over that one final hump, Diesel, but I don't know that the Atlanta Braves are either. I think you kind of are stuck where you are. You do see the Diamondbacks, Nationals, White Sox possibly as sellers when we do approach the trade deadline. There's some guys out there who could be of value, of assets when we approach June, or the month of July, rather. But it is what it is. There are a lot of really good teams in the major leagues as of right now, but the Atlanta Braves are not one of them. I just think overall the Mets are probably, I hate to say this, Diesel, they're the team that's impressed me the most so far. They've been really, really good this season.
What would you rather see the Braves do? Would you rather see them admit defeat, blow it up, and resign yourself to probably a tough 2026 and maybe even tough 2027 as well? Or would you like to see them struggle and go out and spend money and try to incrementally improve?
I don't want to blow it up. I think there's too much talent to blow it up, but I would say that this season's a wash, right? You just go ahead and forget about this year, try to do what you can. And in the offseason, you've got a lot of items, a lot of bullet points to address, a lot of needs to address. I think that I think many Braves fans will agree with me, I'd like to see the Braves a lot more aggressive in the offseason, Diesel. You have, over the last half decade, you have let cornerstone pieces of your franchise go. Max Fried, Dansby Swanson, Freddie Freeman. You've let so many really good value players go that now you're kind of sleeping in the bed that you made, and you kind of have to be aggressive and go get some guys signed. They still have talent. I don't think they should blow it up, but man, they've got to be more aggressive in my mind.
Cole, most of the time when we hear Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Dolphins, speak, we're thinking this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But I actually agree wholeheartedly with Mike McDaniel based on a question and an answer, which is getting him a lot of heat right now. What is it? What do I agree with him on? We'll talk about it next right here on the Fan Upstate 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere on the free Odyssey app. It's well known at this point that the Rams really want to see Jalen Ramsey back in Los Angeles. Is there a good chance that he goes back? I mean, they are certainly in the bidding for the star players' services. Somebody asked Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Dolphins, about Jalen Ramsey's absence. And he said, yeah, I'm well aware that Jalen is not here in the clubhouse. He is not appearing at OTAs. The question, though, Cole, is judging from Mike's tone, which it's really hard to read what Mike McDaniel is actually thinking. What do we make of what he has to say here about Jalen Ramsey? I'll play you the audio in full, and then we'll discuss.
Confirm Jalen Ramsey not here.
Oh, he is not here.
Surprised it's taken this long to find a resolution with the team.
Personally, and I would lump you into this with me, I don't give a about what I feel. I don't even really go down that road of how do I feel about it. My job is to react and control my controllables and make sure that people are moving in one direction appropriately.
So you could take that in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. You could take it in the standpoint of, hey, I'm the coach. I'm here to do my job, which is to coach. I stay out of these decisions. GM, player, you two figure it out. Or you could certainly read into it that he's saying, I'm tired of this whole process. I don't give a rip anymore. What happens with Jalen? And he's sort of saying, if you're going to go, just go.
You know, the way I read into it is very simple. Mike McDaniel is a boss, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't mean like he's a boss, like a boss move. He is over people.
Sure.
And the best bosses in the world, this is going to sound brutal, but the best bosses don't care about their feelings or the feelings of their employees. Now, you may say, Cole, that sounds like, a D-head, right? Like, come on, that you're supposed to care about your employees. I'm not saying you don't care about them, but if you own a business or you're running a team, you care about the success of the business or the team. And Mike McDaniel's job is to make sure, Diesel, that he has the guys prepared to win when they kick off on Sundays. I have no issue with that audio that you just played, because while you may say, well, he needs to be a team-friendly guy or a player-friendly coach, he may be off the field, but ultimately the best bosses are successful because they don't let feelings get between what needs to be done and what has to be done. And Mike McDaniel knows that he can't allow feelings to come in the middle of this.
Well, he also can't control this negotiation. It's not like he can call up Jalen personally. I mean, he could. I'm sure he has his phone number. Or he can't call up his agent and say, hey, you guys need to get your you-know-what together and sign this deal. Mm-hmm. And he's certainly not going to call his general manager and say, hey, you need to capitulate. You need to give Jalen everything he wants. You got to give me this guy or we will lose football games. Yeah. He's sort of playing it in the middle. It's Mike McDaniel's tone of voice, which I have had a problem with for a long time, all the way back to him talking about Tua and his head injuries to where he sounded like a complete idiot talking about that. But I think he's doing a masterful job of sort of playing it down the middle and saying, look, I go out and I coach the guys that I have available. And it's not my job to make sure X, Y, Z players are happy and they've got everything they want and we're all singing Kumbaya. It's my job once they're in the locker room to make sure they're prepped to go out and win.
And that's true. That is his job. I will say, Jalen Ramsey, very good player. We all know what he provides. However, if he walks or they trade him like he wants, that's fine. If I'm Miami, that's fine. Because you know what just happened a couple of days ago? Jair Alexander became a free agent. Jair Alexander became a possibility. And I would be just as fine with Jair Alexander in my secondary as I would Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
Not to say that Jalen Ramsey's not a good player, but you go get Jair Alexander, and then, Jalen Ramsey can do what he wants. Jair Alexander is one of the best cornerbacks, defensive backs, Diesel, rather, one of the best DBs in the National Football League. So what they do in free agency right now certainly matters. If they could sign Jair Alexander, it would kind of allow this situation to be swept under the rug a little bit. But Jalen Ramsey's still a good player. I just don't know. We kind of talked about it yesterday with the holdouts.
Yeah.
I don't know ultimately that Jalen Ramsey's going to be happy wherever he goes if he doesn't get the money he's looking for.
Yeah, I took that audio as far more matter of fact, it is what it is, than confrontational.
Yeah.
Then it's Jalen's fault. It's the GM's fault. I think Mike's doing what he has to do. Still doesn't mean that I don't think he's a schmarmy little weasel.
Hey, I'll tell you this.
do.
I think it sends a message to Jalen Ramsey, though, as well. I mean, what he said.
We'll be fine without you?
I don't care. Like, yeah, my job's to coach the guys. I have. And if you're not here, adios. Pack your bags, and we'll see you next time, right? Wherever you land. I love it. I love the audio there from Mike McDaniels. I don't have a single issue with it. JD on the stream says Jalen doesn't seem to ever really be happy with his team, and that's kind of my point. I don't know that it's a Miami issue.
Hey, those great players, they all have somebody in their ear. It's an agent, it's advisors, whoever it is, telling them that they can always get a bigger, better deal, a better situation somewhere else. It's not always true.
You're telling me, though, that I could be a football player in the NFL and get paid millions of dollars to live in Miami, Florida, and I can't be happy about that?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I mean, I could find many, many worse places, Diesel, that I'd be complaining about, right?
Yeah.
But again, you
could be stuck in Nashville, Tennessee,
or Detroit,
Well,
a lot of these places, the Lions, I mean, who wants to go live in Green Bay, Wisconsin?
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't nothing there.
Yeah, beautiful, great facility. The fans really love it, but you're still in Green Bay, Wisconsin at the end of the day.
If I'm living in Miami, getting paid millions, I don't care. Yeah. I'll take the league minimum. I'll stay. I'll retire. I'll play forever. Don't let me get. But again, people have different motives, right? Diesel, a lot of audio from the world of sports out there on the interwebs pertaining to golf, Aaron Rodgers, and so much more. We're going to throw it all at you in the very next segment.
23 straight. If I'm calculating correctly, that's 9 straight weekends in a row we've swept. 23 straight games. This is no Cinderella. I want to make sure that's known. This is no Cinderella. Coastal Carolina, the past century, only 8 teams have been to the regionals more times than us. During that same time period, we've got the 6th best winning percentage, the 9th most wins. This is not a Cinderella story. We're one of the premier, most successful college baseball programs in the entire country. And our Hall of Fame coach retired last year, and he left a foundation for this team and this program to remain successful and to remain one of the premier college baseball programs in the country for the years to come.
How do you not love Kevin Schnall
Let's
leading
run
us
through
off?
a wall.
I mean, I got goosebumps just sitting here thinking about it. Leading off the audio blitz on this Hump Day edition of Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So many pieces of audio to throw at you. And I should have played that one. Well, let's play that one last again. Let's make sure we end, because that's the best piece of audio.
It's fantastic.
Kevin Schnall. How do you not love that guy? I mean, bring me some teal and black. I'm ready. I'm pulling for Coastal all weekend. Coastal Carolina. Look, Gary Gilmore was a legend. He said it. But the Kevin Schnall, man, between that audio and him going at Kevin O'Sullivan, I mean, give me the Coastal merch right now. Sign me up. I love this team. I love the coach. He's just a hard-nosed guy. And Diesel, I don't know if they can win it all. I certainly hope they do.
Yeah.
But I tell you who I'm pulling for. It's Coastal. It's Kevin Schnall.
Yeah, I'm rooting for the conference. I'm rooting for the little guy. I love it. It gives me multiple reasons. Even though I feel dirty rooting for anything for Coastal Carolina as a rival, still, I want to see them get it done.
Do you think App State fans collectively are rooting for Coastal to win it all or no?
I hope so. I mean, who else is in there that they would root for?
I think it's okay. Like, I think even though they're in your conference, I think it's okay. I think you get. I mean,
we all need somebody to latch onto. We all need a team to pull for it, because it just gives you more reason to stick around and watch it. Especially if you put money on betting college baseball. Whew, that's like trying to catch a chicken. It's a hard thing to do, but obviously, just increases the intrigue.
Yeah, it really does. Maybe Clemson and Carolina fans can unite together for these next 2 weeks, Diesel, and pull for the same team. How about that? Let's do it. Let's unite as a state and pull for Coastal. I'm all for it. Speaking of uniting, Aaron Rodgers, we got a lot of Aaron Rodgers audio here, but Myles Garrett, Diesel, defensive lineman who is now in the same division as Aaron Rodgers, he's not uniting. He is wanting to put Aaron Rodgers in the graveyard. Here's that audio.
What do I think about it? I think it's a good opportunity to put him in the graveyard.
Woo! How about that audio, Myles Garrett? You like that, Diesel?
Yeah,
a good opportunity to put him in the graveyard.
We're not going to take it easy on you just because you're 49 years old. How old is Aaron Rodgers now? 42 years old?
No, 73.
You're a legend. Great. You're a future Hall of Famer. Great. I'm still going to put your ass in the dirt.
Put you in the graveyard. I love that. That fires me up, man. Myles Garrett, Cleveland Brown. I've never been a Browns fan, but now I'm pulling for him. Diesel, I believe it was when you were out there, we talked about a Stephon Diggs video that surfaced with some women on a boat and some pink substance right before camp. I think you saw that. I'm sure you did or heard about it.
I did. I heard about this.
Here was Stephon Diggs being asked about the viral boat video.
I want to be as candid with you guys as possible. I kind of like have a thing where talk about my personal life with people I don't know personally. I'm pretty sure everybody here, men and women, are great people, but you know what I'm saying? I kind of keep my personal life personal. I had a conversation with Graves, obviously. I'm going to echo everything that he said. He told me, hoping everybody making good decisions, you know what I'm saying? And I had a conversation with people in the building as well, so, everything else is everything else. The particulars is all internal.
Look, I don't have a problem with that. Like, you messed up. You shouldn't have been in that situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You maybe need to make better decisions. We've all been there, right? But I think taking accountability and meeting with Vrabel as coach, Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the Patriots, Diesel, I think that's what's most important. And him not shedding all those details from the media, I don't really have an issue with.
Yeah, are we sure he didn't have any substances in his system when he was doing that interview? Because he was talking a little fast, a little twitchy, a little.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think he does. I think he's good.
Is it hot in here? Just
stop. You earlier in the show asked about Rory and his driver.
Yep.
Guess what? He was asked about it. Believe it or not. Can you imagine that?
Shocker.
Rory, have you settled on a driver that you want to use this week? First of all.
Yeah.
What is it?
A TaylorMade.
What model? Are you back to the 10? Or the
come
35?
out and watch me hit balls and you'll see.
Okay. And and going back to the PGA, how big of a factor was it that you didn't have the gamer driver that you had used at the Masters?
It wasn't a big deal for Scotty, so it shouldn't have been a big deal for me.
It's just stupid, right?
He's turning a little heel, man.
He's turning into the
turning a little Aaron Rodgers.
What kind of driver are you? TaylorMade. Well, what model? Come watch. You'll see.
What difference does it make? Like, are we going to parse words about what driver I'm going to use? The XI22 versus the XI21? Who cares?
Some reporters, they've got to know, right? They've got to know.
There's those people who will interview musicians and tell me what kind of guitar are you playing? What kind of pickups are in it? What kind of strings are you putting? How did you set up the string height, the bridge distance?
Who cares?
Yeah, he's like, I just go out there and play, man.
Diesel, I mentioned earlier in the show, in the 4 o'clock segment, Dustin Johnson, a previous winner about 9 years ago at Oakmont. He spoke to the media about his cuts that he's missed and maybe a resurgence of DJ. What do you think?
Have you felt that your game has slipped at all in the last couple of years? And if it hasn't, is it just a fine line here between what you were accomplishing and maybe frustrations of the main?
Golf is a strange sport, and I don't feel like I've slipped any. My scores haven't reflected, but it is a really fine line. I remember a few years ago, I think I missed 2 cuts in a row. I think I shot 80, and then I won the next week. It's not, it's for me, it's always really close to being good, but just getting back there and then keeping it consistent, which over the last couple months I've starting to see a lot of patterns, and the game feels like it's coming back into good form.
Maybe he doesn't want to admit that he slipped, but he's certainly not in the elite category.
See, right? I thought that was a jerk question.
Oh, it definitely was.
It was a jerk question. Hey, so Justin, you kind of suck lately. What's going on? Well, why do you think that is? I mean, that's asking a question in a very specific way in an attempt to get a very specific soundbite out of him. And it's bad journalism.
Pointed, right?
It's very pointed. I like, if you want to ask an insightful question, ask an insightful question. But then leave it open-ended so that the person who you're asking the question of can give you an insightful answer.
You feel like your game slipped?
Yeah.
When I heard that, my eyes got you and I both were like, oh wow, what a question. But you know how I'm telling you, some of these reporters just DGAF. Hey,
I noticed that you switched from the FootJoy to the Nike golf shoes.
Yeah.
Do you hate FootJoy now? Can you tell us why their product sucks?
Yep. It's brutal.
I just thought they were more comfortable, man. And they paid me.
It's cutthroat, right? Cutthroat. Yeah. Diesel, we mentioned the top prospect for the Red Sox the other day. His MLB debut. A little bit of a costly error.
Uh-oh.
Yandy Diaz with a clean single to right.
Oh, baby.
And Roman Anthony, in his first game at Fenway Park, makes an enormous error to make a 3-0 raise, and Yandy Diaz to third.
The Red Sox faithful want to boo so bad, and some of them are.
So not a great way to introduce yourself to Boston, who's cutthroat, right?
Yeah. They're known for their forgiveness up in Beantown for sure.
And here was his response in the postgame availability about the error.
Throwing the ball in right field, did that skip on you, or just kind of a bad hop, or what?
Yeah, just can't happen. It's one of those plays that I've dealt with that skip a million times in my career, and it's tough when you lose a game like that. You feel like that's the reason why you lost, little things like that. So it's tough, but again, just gotta learn from it and be better.
I mean, he's young, right? He's young.
Yeah.
It happens.
Bad way to handle that, though. I mean, look, I don't know his personality. He clearly has a little bit of a sense of humor because he's hiding out in laundry carts to get away from people who want autographs. I mean, have a little bit of affability. Crack a joke. Ask ChatGPT to write you a joke. Hey, what should I say to the reporter who's going to ask me about this? And then just have a joke handy. Make people laugh. Move on. Instead of being hard on yourself and then giving Red Sox fans a reason to keep coming after you.
Yeah, and those media members up there, man, they're cutthroat. Yeah. It really. Here was his first major league at bat. Talking about Roman Anthony, by the way.
Fielder number 48, Roman Anthony.
And just while this video is playing note, he is still young. He didn't go to college. I mean, mistakes happen, right? He's going to make mistakes. And he plays, again, like we said, for the Red Sox.
They have been waiting a long time.
Is it really that big a deal for a AAA prospect to come up?
Well, he's the number one overall prospect.
Most of the kid down in AAA. 51 walks, 56 strikeouts, right? The quality of an at-bat, what Cora's been talking about. Draws his walks, swings at the right ones.
The 1-0 from Boz. He'll swing and hit a high pop-up into left. Mangum finds it in the mist and makes the catch.
So that's how his first at bat went. Obviously, a little bit of a rough start. But this guy's going to be, he's projected. Again, you asked about a AAA guy. He's projected, Diesel, to be really, really good. So, there's high expectations. And he has a responsibility to live up to those now. So it's going to be fun to watch Roman Anthony for the Boston Red Sox. Let's go to one of your favorite people in the world, Diesel. 2 clips from Aaron Rodgers. First one, there was when he was throwing, he's right-handed. He sticks his left hand out, and there's a thing on your left hand on a certain finger that was noticeable on Aaron Rodgers' left hand.
Yeah, it's a wedding ring.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How long
ago? It's been a couple months.
So in the off season, nobody knows, but Aaron
hitched.
Rodgers is getting married. Is getting married.
Look, good, cool, man.
Good on her.
If you all of the will they, won't they? Is he interested? Is he going to play? And he did say like, hey, I've got some personal stuff I need to attend to. You got to assume that's it, but just say, hey, I'm getting married. But
no,
I guess if you want to try to avoid all of that, but what if it had gotten out?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised it didn't, to be honest. Right. With you. Let's see on the text line. Philip Rollins says Coastal and Murray State. I'm them all the way. Look at the Murray State coach. How much he gets. How much he gets paid. All he does for them. Love them both. Again, that comes from Philip Rollins. I did see Diesel where the Murray State, like the field, it looks like a field you'd see down the road, right?
Yeah.
The Murray State head coach cuts the grass. Like it's a small. That's the Cinderella story. Kevin Schnall is exactly right.
They need a Forrest Gump who just does it because he likes it.
Right, 100%. Let's see. Next in the audio blitz, Diesel. Here's a few seconds of Bryson DeChambeau talking about the toughest test in golf.
This is probably the toughest golf course in the world right now.
Are you okay with hack out?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me apologize. This is a montage of different golfers talking about Oakmont.
Yeah, I think everybody knows this is probably the toughest golf course in the world right now.
Are you okay with hack out, Rob? If there's,
It's the U.S. Open, yeah. I don't think people turn the TV on to watch, some of the guys just hit like a 200-yard shot on the green, you know what I mean? I think they turn the U.S. Open to see a guy shooting 8 over and suffer,
I understand this place is hard. I don't need to read articles or I don't need to hear horror stories. Like I've played it. I know it's difficult.
It's Oakmont, big brute of a golf course, and you're going to have your wits about you this week, all the way throughout the bag, off the tee, into the greens, around the greens.
A lot of unfortunate things are going to happen. It's hard fairways to hit, bad lies, difficult bunkers, difficult greens. So it's going to be a nice test, a difficult test.
You have to hit the fairways, you have to hit greens, and you have to two-putt.
If you just get lazy, like on any drive, any wedge shot, any chip, any putt, you can kind of look stupid pretty fast, especially at a place like this.
It's a challenge. It's challenging myself to try and hit every fairway, to try and hit every green, to try and be disciplined through and through.
Step number one is to hit in the fairways, and hopefully we can do that.
Golf course is good. Rough is healthy. Golf course is in great shape, so it should shape up for a really good week.
Man, it's just tough. I think you keep hearing the word tough and rough, a lot of rhyming words, but overall, you just have to hit the ball really, really well. You're going to get penalized even on good shots, and that's just part of this golf course, and we'll see how it all plays out.
So the moral of the story is you have to play well this week.
I like that one quote, and I couldn't quite tell who it was. I thought maybe it was John Rahm, where he says, a lot of unfortunate things are going to happen.
Yeah, it was John Rahm. You're right. It was.
Put that on a T-shirt and sell it at Oakmont.
Well, you know what?
Woo!
I want you to hear this one as well. You and I talked about Rory's motivation, an hour ago? He was asked about that, believe it or not. Are you surprised?
How tough is it to regain that motivation? And did you think it might be this difficult to regain motivation?
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't know. I mean, look, you dream about the final putt going in at the Masters, but you don't think about what comes next. So, yeah, I think I've always been a player that struggles to play after a big event. After I win whatever tournament, I always struggle to show up with motivation the next week because you've just accomplished something and you want to enjoy it and you want to, sort of relish the fact that you've achieved a goal. And I think chasing a certain goal for the better part of, a decade and a half, I think I'm allowed a little bit of time to relax a little bit, but we're here at Oakmont and I certainly can't relax this week.
So he wants time to relax. Are you okay with that? I mean, that's the kind of one of the pieces of audio I was telling you about, Diesel, where he kind of sounds like he just really didn't know what to expect.
He sounds like a golfer or any athlete that just got drafted into their major sport, just got their first giant paycheck, and they're like, well, what now? What do I do now?
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it. All of my focus has been on working to get to this point. Now, what do I do?
Talking about how tough the course is, just a few more clips of audio before we run to a break, Diesel. He played 2 rounds of golf at Oakmont. Rory did last week. One of them, he had to birdie the last 2 holes just to get to 81.
Learn about the course on your scouting trip, and what have you seen in how it's changed in the week since that?
Yeah, there's definitely been a little bit of rain since that Monday. Last Monday felt impossible. I birdied the last 2 holes for 81. So it felt pretty good. Didn't feel like I played that bad. So it's much more benign right now than it was that much. I mean, they had the pins in dicey locations and greens were running at 15 and a half. And, it was nearly impossible. But, yeah, this morning it felt, it was a little softer. The pins aren't going to be on 3 or 4% slopes all the time. So, if you put it in the fairway, it's certainly playable. But then you just have to think about leaving your ball below the hole and, just trying to, make as many pars as you can. And, get yourself in the way of a few birdies, that's a bonus.
81, and he said he felt like he played good. Think about that. Let that sink in. I mean, that's 11 over, Diesel. That's 11 over. It is going to be all right. A few more we're going to run, but Aaron Rodgers said he had a lot going on in his personal life.
Aaron, you visited here over 70 days ago. What made now the right
70?
time? 70, yeah. It's been a little bit. What made now the right time to sign a deal with you here?
I was dealing with a lot of things in my personal life, and some things improved a little bit where I felt like I could fully be all in here with the guys. I had a great conversation with Mike throughout the entire process, and Omar. But it's good to get that done and get behind us.
So, personal issues.
How do you feel if you're his new wife and he refers to you as a slight improvement in his personal life?
Slight
improvement. Like I mean, come on, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's always been cagey. He's always tried to intentionally misdirect.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, come on, man. Happy wife, happy life. I wouldn't refer to your wife as a slight improvement on your personal life.
Diesel, let's end with the audio we started with, the best audio. Kevin Schnall, the head coach of Coastal Carolina, says this is not a Cinderella story.
We won 23 straight. If I'm calculating correctly, that's 9 straight weekends in a row we've swept. 23 straight games. This is no Cinderella. I want to make sure that's known. This is no Cinderella. Coastal Carolina, the past century, only 8 teams have been to the regionals more times than us. During that same time period, we've got the 6th best winning percentage, the 9th most wins. This is not a Cinderella story. We're one of the premier, most successful college baseball programs in the entire country, and our Hall of Fame coach retired last year, and he left a foundation for this team and this program to remain successful and to remain one of the premier college baseball programs in the country for the years to come.
Sign me up to play for that guy.
Love it. Absolutely love it, Cole. Best case scenario, if you're getting recruited by a mid-major school, you choose Coastal Carolina. There's a good chance you're going to get some hardware over the course of your career. When we come back, we're going to play the game that's sweeping the nation for better, for worse. A couple of sports conversations framed in the context of better, worse, worst, best. That's coming your way next. And you can participate as well, Tolos, 844-FAN-PHONE. congratulations are certainly in order to the happy couple, Aaron Rodgers and his girlfriend, who I assume is named after a color in the Crayola crayon coloring box. Happy for them, Cole. And they have just, committed themselves to each other with their vows, and they say, we'll be together for better, for worse. And we will as well, Cole. In this segment, you and I run through a couple of different sports-related scenarios and ask the question, what's better, what's worse? Are you ready to get started?
Let's do it. Let's
All
do
right,
it. You go
here
first.
we go, Cole, with the PGA and the U.S. Open happening this weekend at Oakmont. Let's talk about this one. Very first, for better, for worse today, taking the financial implications out of it. Obviously, if one of these selections is not going to net any money, the other one will at least net something. Is it better to be one of the first guys to miss the cut at a major and then go regroup and move on to the next event, or be the last guy who makes it into the cut, who then has to endure 2 more days of the course absolutely kicking your butt?
Say that. Okay, so say it one more.
Is it better to be? Is it better to miss the cut at Oakmont, for example?
Okay.
Brutal hard course.
Miss the
right?
cut. Yeah.
Miss the cut.
Yep.
But you're like the best golfer who missed the cut.
Yeah.
That way you're done after 2 days. You regroup and you move on to the next course, or to make the cut and go out there for 2 more days and get your ass kicked.
You know what? I see both sides. However, if it's me, I don't want a missed cut on my resume, right? I mean,
they're all going to have them.
No, but I'm competitive. I don't like that. I don't like losing. I don't want to miss a cut, right? In a major, I'd rather go out and get my butt kicked for the next 2 days, Diesel, because I'd say, well, you know what? I may have got my butt kicked, but at least I made the cut. That's what I'd say. I don't like missing the cut. That would rub me the wrong way. You're gonna miss cuts. It happens, like you said, but I'm too competitive. I would like to limit the damage as much as possible in terms of missing cuts.
See, I'm the exact opposite. Now, Scotty Scheffler misses cuts. Okay, 2022
he does.
He missed cut at the St. Jude. Also in 2022, he missed the cut at the PGA Championship at Southern Hills. October, he missed the Shriners Children's Open cut. So it happens. He's a phenomenal golfer, world-ranked #1 golfer. But I bet you, Cole, that if he said, you know what, I've just had a really tough outing here. And again, we're saying, like, you can't just retire off the course. You can't just say, well, I'm not playing well after day 3. I'm just going to go home. I'm just going to go ahead and concede and give up. You have to play. I would rather go ahead and say, you know what? I had a terrible couple of days here at Oakmont. I would rather just get on out of here, start thinking about the next course, give myself an extra day or 2 of rest, or focus on the next course, whatever it may be. I'd rather miss the cut.
No, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it.
I feel like I could be better prepared for the next tournament.
Yeah, but it's a pride thing for me. I don't want to miss it. It's a pride thing.
What do they play next week, by the way?
That's a good question. Next week? Or who is they? Rory won't play.
Well, yeah. I'm looking at the tournament schedule here on PGA.com. The Travelers Championship in Cromwell, Connecticut. So they're not going to have to go far. That's the one that uses the umbrella as the
That's next
logo.
week after
next week.
Huh. And it's where? Where's the Travelers?
Cromwell, Connecticut.
Cromwell, Connecticut. Okay.
Yep. And then it's the Rocket Classic in Detroit.
Okay.
The next 3 weekends.
All right, I've got a what's worse for you. It's kind of centered around Aaron Rodgers a little bit, or just that scenario.
Aaron's what's worse.
Well, okay, next one. All right, your turn. I mean, it's true. I've got a what's worse. What's worse, Diesel? Ending your career with maybe a little bit of meat left on the bone, like LeBron James, or being the guy that just plays way too long, maybe like Aaron Rodgers. What's worse? Ending it maybe with a little bit of meat left on the bone, or just not knowing when to hang it up?
It's which one's worse?
Which one's worse?
Because
the career ending is it sucks.
Worse is hanging on way too long. I mean,
so?
at some point it starts to get sad. You get traded around. Like there's going to be a point where you get traded in a bundle package for like a second-round pick, and you're going to say, "Whoa, I used to be great. What do you mean you're going to trade me for a second-round pick? This is bogus." And so now you have to say, "Oh man, is that all I'm worth to these teams anymore?" But then those guys keep playing. That's the problem, and they a lot of them will play their first 2/3 of their careers with one team or two teams, and then you start adding team number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 after that, and it's just sad.
Maybe Aaron's on that track. They went for the Green Bay Packers, New York Jets, now Pittsburgh Steelers. Where's he going to be next year? Right? I don't know. You know what? I would answer by saying I would agree with you there. I think few years of meat left on the bone. That's okay. At least you can say, "Hey, I knew when to hang it up." But I wouldn't want to be the dead dog that you just have to shoot.
Yeah,
right?
well, it goes down to identity. Like we talked about this with Tom Brady when he refused to retire. His identity was not husband to a supermodel, father to a bunch of kids. His identity was, I'm a football player. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I'm going to spend all of my time focusing on being, as opposed. Well, funny enough, you look at a guy like LeBron who has so many projects outside of being a basketball player, but he's still maybe, arguably, holding on a little bit too long, right? I mean, like, is it worth ignoring or not putting your all into these other projects that you can still be phenomenal at, to go out and be a pretty good basketball player?
It's interesting. It really is. All right, you got another one?
Trying not to slander LeBron. I really don't mean that as LeBron slander. Here we go, Cole. What is worse? Not being able to use your phone at the Masters, which is a thing. You can't use your phone at the Masters. I had some audio last week. You might have heard it on your way
I did.
up.
It was
Shane Gillis
funny. Gosh,
saying
it
it's like it sucks because you're out on the course all day and you can't use your phone, and like it's golf.
I love that audio.
Is that worse, or is not being able to see over the sea of people all holding up their phones at every event worse?
I think it's not being able to see, because you're paying to be there.
Right.
You paid your hard-earned money to be at the course, right? You want to be there. You want to see. Now, look, I will admit to you, going a long time without my phone, I would struggle. I'm on it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh, God. Sign me up, please. Please. I want to be without my phone for an entire day.
See,
like,
I would be.
Do you get phantom? So you say you're never away from your phone.
Never. Literally never. And a lot of it's because of work, like business.
I'll leave it upstairs in the house, but I get those phantom rings. Like my phone's
like,
always on vibrate. So if it's not in my pocket because I've left it upstairs, I'll feel my leg just. Bzz,
yeah.
Bzz,
yeah. No, I do too. I just I don't want to miss a work call, like a customer or something. I don't want to miss a call. So I literally take it and it's probably not I take it everywhere. I mean, bathroom, kitchen, bedroom, on a walk, take out the garbage. It's always on me. I mean, it always is. I'm way guilty of that.
You could just like get a watch, put a data plan on there, and just have phone calls and messages come to your watch.
Yeah, maybe I need to do that.
And then you could leave your phone. It's like, all right, you're connected, but you're less connected.
Maybe I need to do that. Maybe I should go. I had an Apple Watch when they first came out.
Yeah,
and it's been what?
My wife lost hers in the ocean while we were in Jacksonville.
There's one of mine that are in a lake in Texas. One of mine, yep, it's in a lake, and it's for the longest time it still showed on the.
I lost my GoPro in a lake once. I had it suction cupped to the side of my kayak.
Yeah,
and I shove off out into the water, and I get like 20 feet out, and then just bloop falls off the side.
Yeah.
Suction cup fell off, and I was like, I just got this thing like less than a month earlier. So I was able to triangulate my position, and I waded out up to my neck.
Oh, God.
In pond water.
Oh.
Pond water to go get this thing, and I got it back.
You're brave on that. I've got one more.
Pond water stinks, by the way.
Yeah, I bet. Especially the ones with the septic, right? The ones those aren't fun. Last one. What's worse, having your team's rival or your rivalry game kick off at noon?
Ooh.
or lose in the game that's in the best time slot of the day. I say that jokingly, kind of, right? Because it was announced earlier that Clemson, South Carolina's a noon kick. Clemson fans mad. It's at noon. But wouldn't you rather win the game? I asked that question tongue-in-cheek. But does it really matter? That's the whole point, Diesel.
Losing in a primetime slot sucks. Okay. Now everybody knows that you got your butts whipped.
So you just play the noon game and be done with it, right?
Love it.
Is that where we are?
Yep.
Just play it. Daily Wire's top headlines in sports next. So much happening, so much going on, but one day soon it's all going to come to an end and there will be no Daily Wires.
Oh, that's making me sad.
Well, you know what? There might be a few, but next month there's not going to be a lot of talk. It's just not. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Mid-season tennis. Yeah.
Right. That's what our Tolos care about. But while we have them, we'll take them. Atlanta Braves were defeated by the Brewers last night, but guess what? Spencer Swellenbach on the mound today. The Braves got that dub. They're now 29-38 on the season. We'll take it 2 out of 3. Hadn't heard that in a while. Diesel, the Dallas Mavericks, they denied the request by the New York Knicks to visit and interview Jason Kidd. He was one of the guys that the New York Knicks wanted, but guess what? Dallas said no, can't have him.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. We're not going to let you interview our coach. We like our coach. Go get your own.
You know, Tiger Woods, Diesel, knows a thing or two about golf. That's what they say, allegedly. Woods followed up his first U.S. Open title in 2000 by winning the event in 2002 and 2008. While the 15 major champion will not be teeing off this week, he did offer some helpful hints to anyone who wants to listen about navigating Oakmont. Tiger said, "There is no faking about Oakmont. The golf course is big, yes, but it's just, there's no way around it. You have to hit the golf ball well, and it favors long hitters. Just because of the degrees and the complexes, does that make you think, Diesel, that maybe Bryson DeChambeau should be favored this weekend if Tiger says it favors the long hitters a little bit?"
I mean, maybe. Like, great, Tiger. It's a hard course.
Hard course.
You didn't tell us anything we didn't know, right? You didn't dispel any secrets there.
It definitely is going to be challenging. Also in the news, Clemson left-handed pitcher and Woodruff High School product B.J. Bailey has entered the NCAA transfer portal. B.J. totaled a 5.46 ERA in 61 innings pitched this season. In case you missed it yesterday, Diesel, here on the show and online at thefanupstate.com, Wire to Wire was nominated as the best sports talk radio show in the state in the 2025 Star Award nominees. How about that?
Well, you know, just to be nominated is a great honor.
Only 2.
Yeah.
Nominated.
And another big milestone for the show. Tomorrow makes Wire to Wire episode number 300. Episode 300.
I told you guys, you and our boss, I said I'm going to do 300 shows, but that's it.
Done.
I'm done after 300. So tomorrow's my last show. Somebody's going to clip that and say, well, tomorrow's it.
But Cole said...
Somebody's celebrating right now. Thank God. So that's cool. That's cool. Let's see. What else? Deion Sanders, Diesel, posted on social media Wednesday that everything's okay, even though he has not attended football camp this spring. You know, he's a football coach, and that's what football coaches do. He has had some health scares, though. Everything's okay is what Deion said. Any worry there?
I mean, is he downplaying it? Is it really nothing? It's hard to say. I mean, he's in that age, Cole. Like, he's in that widowmaker age where things could go wrong. How old is?
He's 50.
He's 57. Yeah, he's in a tough spot for men.
Oklahoma City tonight. Diesel, Game 3. Oklahoma City's favored by 5.5 points over the Indiana Pacers. Tip in Indiana at 8:30.
I think the Pacers push the tempo, try to wear Oklahoma City out, and they get it done. I really think that the Pacers win game number 3. Still going with OKC, though, to win the series if it goes long.
They've got to come out aggressive. Pacers do. NCAA President Charlie Baker told hundreds of admins during a keynote address on Tuesday that the recent multi-billion-dollar House settlement approval creates a far better future for the organization and one that comes with choices instead of bankruptcy. How? Didn't know you'd hear the B word about the NCAA. Charlie. 4-star offensive tackle Sam Utu is it Utu? Utu? I have no idea. It's UTU. Utu has committed to Alabama. Sources told ESPN. 77, Diesel number 77 in the 2026 ESPN 300. He's 6'5", 295 from California. He had plenty of offers, but chose the tie.
Trying to see where Alabama lands in the rankings overall. Give me a second. I'll have the answer for that.
Hub City Spartanburgers were defeated by Wilmington last night in Spartanburg by a score of 2-1. First pitch tonight, 6:35 p.m. at Fifth Third Park. Also, Aaron Rodgers revealed, we talked about this, that he got married. How about that? A ring on Aaron Rodgers' hand. He is now a married man. One more Daily Wire for you. Anti-trans activist Riley Gaines declined an apology from Olympic champion Simone Biles after a public feud. Gaines, known for attacking transgender women athletes, refused to accept Biles' apology on Fox News. Biles had criticized Gaines for her comments about a transgender high school softball pitcher. Despite the apology from Biles, Gaines continued to express her views on transgender athletes in sports. Biles did apologize for attacking Gaines. Just more and more controversy.
This is why the left will never win these arguments, Cole, because they're too worried about everybody's feelings. They're worried about the athletes' feelings. They're worried about the coaches' feelings. They're worried about the people on the other side of the argument's feelings. Why apologize? I don't know exactly what Simone Biles said to feel like she needed to apologize, but it's like, did you feel convicted about what you had to say at the time? Well, then don't apologize for it. It is what it is. You're on opposite sides of the spectrum here. Sure. By the way, Alabama, as of right now, Cole, it's still very early, has the 50th ranked class in the 2026 recruiting class. Okay. They do have 1 5-star and 5 4-stars.
Okay.
So they're doing okay as of right now. They just don't have a ton of commits as far as numbers go.
Yeah. Hey, that's not bad.
When we come back, Cole, let's jump back into the conversation from earlier. We have 10 weeks to go until college football is back.
Or we can go to a little golf. How about that?
Oh, golf? We can do that, yeah.
Go back
let's
into
talk
golf.
Yeah,
let's talk golf.
Yeah, let's do it. Golf on the other side.